Thank you, everybody, again for hopping on for another, another Sunday Q&A. These have been clubhouses and Q&As and Zooms and all that, but we've just had a lot of fun. This is kind of just the same conversations that JM and I have by ourselves, kind of behind closed doors, and now we're opening it up into the community, and I think we just touch on a lot of things that people are thinking. And to get us started off, I guess, JM, it's maybe not so secret with the podcast leaking it on Friday, I think it was, but I think you got some big news to share with the community. You want to let everybody know what you're up to?
Yeah. So Wednesday was my last day at Intel. If you saw, I recorded a podcast with Storage Review on Thursday, and kind of let the cat out of the bag. But yeah, I will be joining the Chia team as there's all things storage guy. So that's awesome news. I'm going to be joining Team Green, leaving Team Blue. So I'm super stoked. I mean, we're diving right in. Of course, like we'll talk about having a crazy morning already. But yeah, I'm super stoked. Going to be working on all things storage for Chia, so it shouldn't be overly surprising for everybody. I've been very involved with the community for the last 10 months or so, so it's good to be part of the real team. So
That's awesome. But, just you got me into Chia, what, 3, 4, 5 months ago now. We've had a lot of fun building Chia Decentral, and the value add that you've had to the community has been unparalleled with anybody else. So for anybody, I mean, just couldn't be more well deserved. So just
thanks, man.
congratulations from
Yeah,
me, and I'm stoked to see where this goes.
yeah, I'm eating sushi out with my old boss to celebrate, I think on Friday, and we're taking lots of oyster shooters and eating a copious amount of sushi. And Kyle texts me, he's like, "Hey, there's some post on Reddit that they're saying they're the JM appreciation post," and I'm just like, "There's no way." And my other friend texted me at the same time. He's like, "Did Kyle post this? Is this Kyle? Is he just setting you up?" I was like, "No,
100% was not me, but I think we need to go back, and you have a checkered past of helping the Reddit community.
yeah,
So, um,
yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Reddit. I read some Wall Street bets occasionally just to get a good laugh, but no, I tried to help our hardware, and then data hoarders. There's all kinds of communities that I like tried to literally give advice to about storage, and they're like, "Fuck you." We hit, like just literally. I got called a corporate shill on the hardware because I said NVMe was faster than SATA. Yeah, I mean it's just like most of Reddit is just absolute garbage. But this post was very nice and the opposite of garbage. So thank you guys for putting that. I do appreciate that. I did read the comments, so thank you.
I was so excited to send that to you because I know mostly hate, but now love-hate relationship with Reddit. I just thought that would make your night. That was pretty cool to see.
It sure did. Um, So yeah, while we're waiting for people to join, there was some questions in the chat on are we going to just discuss exchanges? No, I mean I actually have no idea what your guess is as good as mine for what exchanges we're going to have in the U.S. Hopefully there's some announcements next week because I have like a dozen friends that are texting me daily like when can I buy Chia? You told me about Chia. What the hell? Its price is going up. I want to buy Chia. So yeah, I hope soon, and that's all I can say. And then yeah, there's another question about Chia Lisp. I am actually not a Chia Lisp expert. I am a storage expert. So I unfortunately am not the right guy to answer any Chia Lisp questions. But I know Bram is trying to create a lot more events here coming up to get more developers engaged. Yeah, especially now that it's software's out and people are starting to toy around with it. So
Yeah, the Chia Lisp, Keybase kind of is what it is. Well, no, the community is great, but Keybase itself is kind of pressed to its max right now. That's something we're looking to do at Chia Decentral, is really help build up the developer community, and really just help store some of that knowledge and really build a community around Chia Lisp. Other than that, don't have a ton to add right now, but it's really the idea is the development community will kind of form what the development community forms. Bram and team, they're going to be putting out as much kind of content and how-to guides and videos about it, but the development community is really up to you guys and what you decide to start building and creating. So we're looking forward to seeing what programs come out of that just as much as you are. So I guess we should start with the kind of block sync issue that popped up, block 255108 this morning, caught everybody a little off guard for their hoping to be pretty tame Mother's Day Sunday, but turned out to be kind of anything but that.
Yeah, that's definitely not the thing you want to wake up to at 6:30 in the morning. Like, yeah, we think the blockchain is broken and stop syncing. But yeah, I think you guys may have seen I mean, obviously the team got an insanely fast turnaround. The developers that were in, like Mariano, who was in different time zone, it's very late night for him, and they like immediately got up. Let me see. I thought I had it here. Yeah, I'm showing the change log here. I pulled it up. But it had to do with something with negative values getting into the mempool. And you can't do this, for instance, from the GUI or some way easy. It seems like somebody was mucking around with Chia Lisp, and it's entirely possible it was just an accident or something along those lines where this error condition that wasn't being checked for was in the mempool, and it caused some bad behavior. Oops, Kyle's video got turned off here. How on earth do I allow?
I don't know. Maybe make me
host.
There we go.
Sure, that's weird.
All right. Well.
Yeah. So I just I'm actually I read up a little bit on the issue, and I listened into the Chia team this morning discussing it. So sounds like it could have been a lot worse, and I think that was kind of obviously pretty scary right now as we're just getting started to have some little event like that, little blip. But I mean, the team root caused it like immediately and had a hotfix in like 10 minutes. So I mean, I'm blown away like how fast everybody dived on the grenade this morning and just basically figured it out instantly and fixed it. So
yeah, and kind of at a high level, what happened was, at least kind of our understanding, is that the network error began from a unexpected negative integer that made its way into the transactions to be validated, and that resulted in invalid transactions and blocks that were not accepted onto the chain from other farmers. So it kind of slowed down the chain, caused the hiccup. I mean, the developers, you saw from Mariano in the chat, almost immediately getting bug fixes and error logs and all of that. I mean, they just were on it immediately. And really, if you've been around Chia for a while, that should not come as any surprise. Working through the beta and how many betas they pushed through, every 4 or 5 days, it's real all hands on deck. Yeah. And anytime something came up, they addressed it, immediately and had a solution within a matter of hours. So just really another notch on their belt for how quickly they're able to react and adapt to something like this.
Yeah, I was blown away. So yeah, I got 1.1.5 installed, and everything's syncing again. We're all happy. Certainly the Netspace has been growing. We say this every week because it's been true every week, that it's just every single week it's just insane, growth, and we're just still perplexed. I think we're going to see continued growth for all those people that bought all that hard drives. They're still plotting. I don't expect everybody filled up their drives in 2 weeks. So yeah, we'll probably see a decent amount of growth still. And But there's good news and bad news. One is that we're seeing broad adoption. That's good news. That means that there's going to be demand for the coin, and we do think that the coin price is going to go up because anybody who's been farming, that's good news. Bad news for a lot of people that are trying to get in right now is that it's harder than it used to be, and that's shouldn't be surprising. But there's a lot of people asking if it's profitable or not. So there's lots of tools online. I just did a video on our YouTube on the new Chia calculator updates. That was really fun because I had been talking with those guys on Twitter, just like, hey, I really like the tool, but it doesn't work, past 3 months, because the growth just goes to infinity and it's not useful. And so they put a change in there that basically models the Netspace kind of like I have it, just where it kind of flattens out and the growth, it's still steady growth after some time, but it stops being exponential after some amount of days because there's only a fixed amount of storage out there that is purchasable for new farming. There is a question about how much underutilized storage is out there in the world. And in the desktop and consumer space is probably an answerable question. You could say, okay, we know how many people have laptops. We know the average capacity SSD that is sold in laptops. Hint, it's very, very small. The majority of laptops today go out like on 256 gigabyte SSDs, some with 512. It's slowly moving up. Now, in the channel space, 512 and 1 terabyte are now bigger than 256 gigabyte for SSDs. But for SSD space, there's not a ton. But how much hard drive space do people have laying around from externals? Who knows, right? Maybe a lot. So, and then the business side about what's going to happen there when Chia becomes very profitable and the coin price is high, people can make an ROI and decide to farm used space. So we will see continued Netspace growth. How fast? Nobody knows.
Yeah, and I guess I guess it's hard to believe last week was the week before. Our last call was the call before transactions unlocked. So we hadn't even seen a coin price during our last discussion. All
right.
Opens up at 2,000, drops to about 15, drops back down to 500.
Yeah.
And that's what we expected with largely low liquidity in overseas exchanges, just as minor price discovery happened.
I honestly, I know, and I'm laughing at Kyle. Everybody's like, "Look at have you seen the price?" But I was like, I haven't even looked. I mean, there's no exchange in the U.S. It's not really worth. I mean, to be honest, I've looked I look like once every couple of days. It's not that interesting, but. So the other part, I know where I was going with the whole Netspace thing was like, plotting speed when the difficulty was low was like number one priority over farming capacity. And now you can input different things into the model. It's not like plotting speed doesn't matter at all, but it matters less than it did because, it's going to take much longer for the Netspace to double again, versus what, it had been like doubling in a few days, once you get to these ranges where it's like 2 or 4 exabytes, you can't double in a day. It just doesn't make any sense. So, plotting power will matter less than it did. And, people, there's all that, like I said, there's good calculators out there to go have people make educated decisions about whether or not they should, plot. So I have some random stuff I'd write the chat about and rant about because I watched some YouTube videos that pissed me off this week. But we can take some questions and go any way we want.
Actually, I kind of like this. If this is a new segment that's starting, is what pissed off JM from the Chia community on YouTube this week. Let's start there. There aren't a ton of questions in the chat, but what did you see that you're just like rolling your eyes?
There's that German overclocking YouTuber, Der Bauer or something. I don't know. I actually don't know his name, but I actually skimmed his video and watched some of it. But it's basically along the lines of like, he goes through in Chia and he actually set up 2 plotters machines and like going through. And then he's like, the video has some stupid clickbait title like, Chia killer of SSDs or waster of SSDs. He ends the video with like, okay, well, Chia kills SSDs in 30 days. Conclusion, Chia's piece of shit garbage and it's bad for the environment. It's like, wait, what? Like, clearly, it's been fun to educate people in the community about SSD endurance and that not all SSDs wear out in 30 days. And the mainstream, very low cost consumer drives most certainly are not well suited for plotting and are not the right recommended choice for plotting drives. But that frustrates me. Like a lot of the Chia, green, Chia is the green cryptocurrency, blah blah. Bram has this vision, and a lot of people are frustrated right now just seeing people using their computer hardware to create these plots, and people are just pissed off. Like, this seems wasteful. But the thing that it's been so hard to get across to people is like, okay, it is using some resources that are finite to secure the network, and those resources are orders of magnitude less power consuming than Bitcoin. So it will be a good thing if Chia succeeds and someday is a large chunk of the cryptocurrency market, or in 10 years from now, if it overtakes Bitcoin and it's the new cryptocurrency of the world, then it will be a net benefit because they've succeeded, because it takes less energy per unit of security. And yes, there is no doubt that it takes real energy, real electricity, and real computer hardware to plot, and real hard drives to farm. But it's 5,000 to 10,000 times less today than Bitcoin. So is that a good thing? Yes. What if Chia blows up and it becomes huge and people start making dedicated Chia hardware? That would be great. I would love to see large capacity drives go down in price. I would love to see new adapters for NVMe and hookup drives go down in price. Like the associated hardware, once this stuff gets into high volume manufacturing, it's going to be net good for the market. So anyways, that pissed me off. And then Linus, if you guys saw, he one of the Intel fellows.
Sam versus Linus starting here.
No, so he invited me on his YouTube thing, and I thought I was getting on the phone with Linus, and we got on the phone with one of his writers, and it was myself and one of the PR guys from Intel, and one of our Intel fellows, like one of the guys who literally invents the NAND die cell, and like one of the smartest guys I worked with at Intel. And we're answering a question. There is some questions about, is it dumb to cool your SSD? And we're like, what are you talking about? And they're like, okay, so we heard that if you water cool your SSD and keep the NAND at like 20 degrees C, that will be bad for your SSD. And we're like, so he went through and explained in this video of like, okay, well, I'll send you guys the link. You can just watch it. Basically that, actually warmer temperatures are good for NAND, because SSDs like the NAND die, actually, it's easier for the electrons to get in the cell and program the floating gate cell when the NAND is actually hotter, and it's better for what we call end-of-life retention, which is how long can the drive stay powered on with data integrity after the endurance is used. And if you cycle the drive when it's hotter, actually this is better for the NAND. But SSD controllers don't like to be super hot, and they need to, at like 70, 80 C, they start throttling, and you end up having a scenario where you basically need to cool your SSD or it overheats. Especially on something like a sequential write. So this video had some stupid clickbait title that was like, is cooling your SSD bad? And I got so many angry emails from Intel, like, I can't believe you made this video. And I'm like, did you watch it? In the video, we explained that that's not exactly what's going on, and that he just made some clickbait title for the stupid video. So, okay, so this is my history with Linus, but he made another video this week, which was talking about the P4500, which was the drive that I actually managed at Intel. And, there was definitely lots of issues on that drive in the beginning of its life. And the team spent, 2 years developing firmware patches and fixes to make it very stable. Okay, but that drive was released in 2017. Most of the validation was done in 2016. Linus was trying to take 24 of those and put them in a development platform AMD Rome system. So that's the second gen, Rome is the second gen platform in the data center for EPYC for AMD. So, okay, the validation guy, my guy who actually runs the validation team at Intel, is like, this pissed him off like no other, right? Because one, that platform didn't exist when they did the validation of the drive, and the final firmware of that drive was released before Rome was out. So one, you could have never tested it. Two, it's a pre-production platform with all kinds of actual like PCIe timing issues and all kinds of weird stuff. And so Linus put the drives in, and they saw some weird interrupt bug. There was some timing issue with PCI Express. And then he blamed Intel. Like, he sent the drives back to Intel and then was pissed off that Intel didn't immediately send him more drives. And oh my God, this pissed me off like no other. Just hearing him whine on YouTube, like, but Intel didn't send me the drives back and in time. And they sent me used drives. They sent me the same drives. Like, he bought used drives on eBay and then sent them back to Intel on a platform that was not an Intel problem, but a AMD Rome problem with a pre-production platform from Gigabyte or something like that. And it was pissed off at Intel. So that pissed me off this week, Kyle. Because I know the guys that do the validation, they do a good job. So
I know that this is going to be the first rant about or the first rant about hardware that's going to get over like 2,000 views on YouTube, and people are going to be on the edge of their seats.
oh man. Yeah, I should spend less time on YouTube. Apparently, I actually just watch it occasionally while I'm playing League of Legends or something.
I love it. All right, let's switch gears. Somebody wrote a Q&A from VTR. I'm a small farmer with 100 terabytes farming. What percentage of total net space should I aim for given the net space is blowing up right now?
uh, yeah, I mean, so it's funny. It's funny you say that. Somebody asked me this a very similar question here. Oh, let me pull up Chia calculator. Again, that's why I love models, and I'm gonna probably do a YouTube here pretty soon, going through some of the endurance models that I wrote for Intel because, um, and I could actually go through our endurance wiki. It kind of shocked me. I forgot I actually haven't done a video on the wikis that I wrote for Chia specifically. But if I just go in here into the Chia calculator, there I'll just pop it up on my other screen so the people on the world can see this. Kyle can't see it right now, but if when I'm recording it, people can. So plotting speed, if I just say like, we'll just say 20 terabytes a day. Okay, well maybe 5 because he said he's got 100 TB. And then we'll say 100, 0 TB, and we're going to go to 100 terabytes. And just with this model, which has the default model of Netspace at like 25 exabytes at the end of the year, which is probably the worst case. It says he's going to earn 13.9 coins after 6 months and 20 coins after 1 year, which would be today $23,000 US. So is 100 terabytes in one desktop, lower than $23,000? Yes, that is correct. So hopefully you can understand how I would do this calculation, and that's what I do at a much larger scale, obviously. But it's the same process where it's like, how much is the storage going to cost? How much is the OpEx of it to run? Operational expenditures equals rack space, power, cooling, anything you need to actually run the hardware. And then you basically just say, what does that cost? What is my expected earnings? You can model some, aggressive, Netspace scenarios just so you say, okay, well, we're going to be on the conservative side and maybe we'll earn more, maybe we'll earn less. Unfortunately, if you're going to earn only like 10 or 20 Chia in a year, you really want to be in a pool because, you're going to want those rewards, daily or weekly or whatever they pay out versus, completely random. Because unfortunately, when the sample size is that big and your probability is that small, if you put that into the Poisson model, there may be times where, you actually don't earn, very, there's a decent chance where you earn like just 2 or 3 coins less than that. Sorry, 2 or 3 blocks less than that. So yeah, for somebody that's going to be a 100 terabyte person, in 3 months from now, it will most likely make sense to be in a pool. Okay, if the pool's coming, May 17th, are you going to, wait to start plotting, to plot with the new format that is good for pools? Maybe, yeah. I mean, to be honest, I tell people that have already plotted 100, 200 terabytes, like, it's not worth replotting just because that is still has a high expected value. With weekly payouts, the variance isn't that high. But once you get to the point where it's like you're winning 1 block a month or something, just the frustration of leaving a farmer on for a month and not getting any rewards. It's really hard to know if things are working correctly, and it's just, yeah, it's hard. I get it. So
Yeah, and pools are just going to be critical for that. It's not uncommon to, and I think this is what they were getting at in the note when they put it in the like Windows application, is it's like, expect 3 to 4 times longer because, there's I'm not looking at my graph, but yeah, a 10% chance that you could go 3, 4, 5 times over expectation, and 10% times 100,000 nodes for any given time frame is a lot of pissed off farmers if they're expecting 1 month or 6 weeks or something and they don't see a reward in that month-long time frame. So Uh, I and kind of get into that, just those initial numbers you talked about, like $23,000 at today's price for a 100 terabyte farm for 6 months. All I can say to that is, yeah, we're still early. We're still very, very early in this. You see, if you punish yourself like I do and read some of the Reddit threads daily, you hear people talking like, it's not worth it to farm anymore. The Netspace is getting too big. That's just not the case. The numbers and the EV on every plot per day just does not reflect that. It will sometime in the future, which is how these markets work. But for now, it is kind of still the Wild West, and plotting is still very, very profitable. You want to go JBOD question?
Do we have a JBOD question?
Yeah. What should one look for when buying a JBOD? Ones on eBay are cheap and noisy. Not sure they can be daisy chained as well.
If you guys have been following the farming channel, which I mostly hang out in the plotting channel, but I occasionally check the farming channel. I saw Eric has been posting some stuff about his shiny new JBODs in the farming channel about kind of managing some of the stuff on temperatures and thermal and power and fan speed and stuff. So that's really good. If you guys have not followed that, you should. Yeah, I mean, one is for JBODs. It's not like there's hundreds of models to choose from. My friend got that NetApp one, and I didn't realize that it used some custom cable for a SAS 2 cable, mini SAS external to it's SFP or something. It's very weird. Normally you want a JBOD that just has a standard SAS connector, because then you can do, you don't want to be buying custom weird cables if you can avoid it. So I'm not a big fan of that NetApp one, just for that. I don't know why the hell they used a cable that's not the standard SAS cable. Nobody does that. And I designed JBODs 10 years ago, so that would have been crazy talk. So yeah, JBOD. I mean, one is define the way that they sell the Supermicro ones now. There's JBODs that are real JBOD, and the true meaning of JBOD is just a bunch of disk. It means it does not have compute local to the JBOD. If you have compute local to, if you have a JBOD-like thing that has lots of drives and has compute in it, that's just called a storage array. But in a JBOD that just has storage, and you cable it up to another host, with your SAS cables, the ones that are more expensive have more redundancy and more drives. So like which makes sense, right? If you have 90 drives in a JBOD, if you have a single expander module go down or a single power supply to go down, you don't want that to completely tank the entire JBOD and all the drives. So those are built in with lots of redundancy, and they have very high speed fans to keep all the drives cool. But it comes at a higher power. That 90 bay, default settings with fan speeds at default, which are very high. It's very loud. It's like 80 decibels. You'd not want this anywhere near your house. I know, because I just stood next to one of them for about an hour fixing some cables today. So basically, that's higher power than you definitely want for the extra redundancy, because those are designed to be high availability and have complete failover. If one host fails, you can have another host completely access the drives. But the cool thing about those 90 bays that I like, Supermicro, they support this feature called zoning, and zoning is very good for plotting. What zoning is basically taking the drives in a JBOD and chopping them up into 3 different zones, and then giving those zones with each of the mini SAS HD connectors on the JBOD expander module. You can connect those each to each host. And so on a 90 drive JBOD, how I have it set up today is actually 3 30 drive zones. And you can do this through the zoning software on Supermicro's website that is just the LSI tools, and it's a command line. But in doing that, then I have one mini SAS HD cable to each host, and then the hosts have access to 30 drives directly. And then you can just plot directly to the drives, and you have 4 gigabytes a second. So you have SAS 12 gigabit per second, and then you have 4 lanes of SAS in each SAS cable, and you have that direct bandwidth to each host. SAS cabling is much, much cheaper than network cabling within a rack. So to get one SAS cable, that's $25. To compare that, that's a 40 gig Ethernet port where you need a $200 QSFP module, and you need very expensive Ethernet cabling. I think you actually, so you can do it through copper in a rack. So that's a long way of saying, like, networking is good because it scales very long distances. SAS is very good because it scales within the rack and it's very fast and high speed and reliable. The problem with SAS is that the cables only go to 1 meter, 2 meter, and 3 meters. You can't go higher than 3 meters, which is perfectly fine. If you're within one rack or two racks, you can even have one, a rack or two away and still cable up a JBOD. So yeah, anyways, I like those higher, 90 bay JBODs from Supermicro because they're pretty flexible. The 45 bays, when I bought my 45 bays, the tried and true SM45 6 months ago, they were $200 and they had been collecting dust in a warehouse for 4 years, 5 years. So you couldn't pay people to take them away from you. And he was like ecstatic to sell me these JBODs. And now all of a sudden people are like interested in JBODs. So I bet, because Chia is so popular, we've already seen that one, mining board for Chia. What they're really trying to do is create a JBOD because a board without power supplies and fans and an enclosure is absolute garbage and it's not going to help anybody. You can't just stick a bunch of hard drives on a board and then expect, like, what are you going to do? Like, the whole point of a JBOD is that they're happy in their little JBOD homes. It's a home for drives. So, there's only a handful of models. Supermicro ones have all kinds of chassis. I got a couple questions from a guy in the chat this week about he bought one of the Supermicro compute servers, but not the JBOD version. And so if you're using that, you actually have to put a power supply in there and put a connector on the. You have to put like a jumper on the ATX power supply so you can power up the backplane, and you can hook the backplane up to another host, but it's a little kludgier than a proper JBOD. The whole idea of a JBOD is it has SAS cables at the back, and it's very easy to attach to a server or a desktop. So that was a long way of answering a simple question, man.
Someone asked that they bought
QSFP
SATA
plus, yeah.
And will that work with the SAS connection?
Whoops, I was reading Kiwi's comment.
That one.
Yeah,
they
no.
said I bought some SATA disks by mistake. Will that still work with the SAS connection?
Oh yes. Oh, that's the most important part of SATA. Actually, so well, good that we brought this up. I'm going to, if you guys saw that I did that, podcast with Storage Review, or last week or this week. God, this week, Jesus. Yeah,
Right.
We're going to go do a deep dive on SAS infrastructure, and we're going to invite our dear friend Cameron, who is the president of the SCSI Trade Association, or a marketing lead, I should say. SCSI Trade Association actually owns all the marketing for SAS. SAS is 100% backwards compatible with SATA. So a SAS backplane can support a SAS drive or a SATA drive. It was designed to be completely interoperable and backwards compatible with SATA. Now, you can't take a SAS drive and plug it into a SAS host. Wait, make sure I said that. You cannot take a SAS drive and plug it into a SATA host. Man, I'm out of it, right?
There we go.
Okay, yeah, that would not work. A SATA is single device, single host. It is low cost signaling. 6 gigabits per second is as fast as SATA goes. SAS goes to 6 gigabits per second. That's SAS 2. SAS 3 is 12 gigabits per second, and SAS 4 is actually 24 gigabits per second. So there is actually some SAS 4 SSDs in the market today. There'd be no reason to buy a SAS 4 hard drive, but unless you're getting higher bandwidth from the enclosure to the host, and I don't even think they exist yet. So, but yeah, SAS is great. It's enterprise type stuff. If I were to make it a simple way to compare SATA versus SAS is just much more complicated. It has many more features, much more advanced logs and reporting and error reporting. It has a lot of customization, so there's a lot of tuning and knobs in SAS that have different features. And then the infrastructure side. In SAS, you have JBODs, you have expanders, you have cables. SATA cabling is very simple. It's just one tiny, unshielded, SATA cable. So
there we go.
I have all this stuff. I have all this stuff in my garage. Maybe next time I can bring out the equipment.
Hardware expert, living up to your head of storage name. Let's see. Oh, while we're here, recommended JBOD rack for an apartment, leaning towards getting a case that can hold 18 drives, but you have a recommendation there. I know our farming hardware guide has pretty much
I don't.
everything.
Why don't? Yeah, I don't think we put a rack. I don't think we put a rack recommendation in there. That's actually a good
Oh,
question. I bought a rack on Amazon and it sucks. It's. I mean, it's nice. It's kind of small, but it's like an Echo something. Uh, Unfortunately, it doesn't fit full size servers, and you can put these trays in there. So if you buy a server and it comes with rail kit, you need to make sure that the rack depth is such that it fits your rail kit. Um, there's a standard, standard rack dimensions, which a standard full rack is like, 41 to 44 U. I think it's 19 inches depth. And, they come in different weight, whatever. And so I don't know if you're buying a half rack or something, just make sure you look at the dimensions and say, is it going to fit standard rack equipment? Because those small racks, compact racks, I found do not fit full. If you saw I have some shit shoved in there right now. And it's like, you have these like little trays. It's not terrible, but it's not great. You really want a proper rack that you can. The whole point of a rack is to mount the servers and rack them, so you don't have them just floating and dangling. Like, you've seen all these pictures of people with their desktops, just sprawled across the rooms plotting. Now, by the way, my garage is not much better. I have a couple desktops just sitting out, but ideally everything should be in a nice, perfect rack, mounted up properly with cabled and nice and neat. It's much easier to manage. So.
there you go. Let's see. One of our anonymous attendees, plots and farms on the same desktop. Do I need to separate the two? We've been over that before. Definitely not. But can you talk a little bit about Chia key management?
Yeah, actually, somebody asked me a question on YouTube, which I think is a very good question on making a cold wallet private. The good thing is this is no different than in Bitcoin. I think Andreas has a really great video on on his channel that it shows how to do this on Bitcoin. After the Ledger hack last year, I actually went out and bought. It's funny if anybody was in the plotting channel, the Keybase, like 6 months ago or 7 months ago, you probably saw. I posted a picture of these metal stamps that I got. You can, I think it's called crypto keys. I actually got them because Gene recommended them. And you basically take a metal stamp and you stamp the letters for the actual seed words into these metal things. And then you put them in, you can put them somewhere and they're basically fire safe and whatever. You can put them somewhere safe. That's much better than having a piece of paper with your seed on it and if that gets burnt up. So one thing, I had a guy on Keybase reach out to me this week. He said, I deleted my seed. He's had like 150 plots, and he said, "Am I screwed?" It was like really sad for me to say. I'm like, I'm really sorry, man. Like, you're not getting your seed back. Like, if you deleted it from the app and you didn't write it down, you're toast, man. It's not good. So, two copies. Make sure if you have your seed on one computer, that you have a physical copy somewhere else and written down. Basically, if you're just one regular human, it's most likely good enough to just write it down on a piece of paper, laminate it, put it in a fireproof safe, put it in your house, and call it a day. If you're one of the lucky guys that has a whole bunch of XCH and you've been farming for a while and you're like, I need to secure my money, maybe look at something like those crypto keys, like I mentioned. You maybe want to do something like a safe deposit box where you put your seed word in there. You may maybe at some point want to have something like the rate limited wallet or multi-sig wallet where you can actually secure your funds. I would love to do a video on that because I've thought about this a lot. I went through the entire Bitcoin Glacier protocol at one point just for fun, just because I'm like crazy stupid like that. Just I wanted to go through and look at the steps of what they recommended. Some of it is overkill, right? Like, making sure that you have some air gap devices and, certain model of USB stick or Dell computer because they tested it. It's like, okay. But, for some parts, generally, if you have your seed on a computer and it's like, this is maybe a really important one, right? So if you have your seed on your computer and you're going anywhere with that computer, make sure your disk is fully encrypted. And on Mac, this is enabled by default. If you have a new M1 Mac or something, it's just called, it's like Firebolt encryption or whatever the hell they name it. But that is full disk encryption. If somebody steals your laptop and tries to put a USB stick in there and look at the files, they can't because your disk is encrypted. SSD, if you buy a consumer SSD today, so turn on something called Opal or eDrive. In Windows, this is called BitLocker. This makes sure your disk has full disk encryption. And if a hacker grabs your laptop from a store while you're at Starbucks and runs off with it, and they try to put a USB stick out there and read your keys, they can't because the disk is encrypted. Um, and put on secure boot on Windows and set an administrator password if you have a laptop that has keys on it. Or, just if you have a laptop that has keys on it, don't travel with that laptop. Like, don't go anywhere with that laptop. Um, so I think all of us are dealing with this right now because we just had transactions 6 days ago, and we're all trying to figure out like where do we move our money to somewhere safe. Eventually it will be good to have a cold wallet where you have a backup of the seed in two places, geographically distributed, to where they're not going to, be, there's one cataclysmic event like a robbery or a fire or something doesn't wipe out both copies, and then somewhere safe where only you have access to it. But yeah, the people that are doing like weird stuff like encrypting it and putting it on a USB stick with a password, don't do that. You're going to forget the password and you're going to be locked out of your keys forever. Like there's all kinds of horror stories of people in Bitcoin of like, oh, I lost all my Bitcoin because I don't remember the password to this hard drive. Like, don't be that guy. Yeah, like just just put it on write them down on paper or put them on stamp them in some
Write them
metal.
down, put it
Yeah.
in 4 or 5 different segments, put them in different safety deposit boxes if you need. Like there's a lot of ways to do it. I guess kind of why we're here is in the crypto space in general is a lot of the flexibility of being your own bank. The downside of that is that you have to be your own bank. There's no one here to bail you out, and you do have to take the security measures very, very seriously. There's no two ways around that. And keeping things, taking pictures of seed phrases, very dumb. Don't do that. Don't store things on computers. Hardware wallets, hardware pieces are our recommendations.
Okay, cool. Roy reminded me, he said, yeah, if you're on an Intel Mac, you likely don't have Firewall enabled by default. If you're on the M1 Mac, I was pleasantly surprised to know that it does enable by default.
There we go.
Oh, Eric's got a good question. He knows I've been working on this. Says, any recommendations for file systems for plotting and farming? So the general consensus for farming was that ext4 with m-m0, so 0 redundant blocks in the file system, was the highest efficiency and with large file formats, so it formats fast. Because you're not going to be having thousands of files on it, you're just going to have a couple hundred plots. It's generally pretty good. That's what I put in my guides because, quite frankly, it's the easiest and most highest chance not to mess up. A lot of people are farming on Windows, in which case you'll need NTFS. And if you buy a drive, I saw the WD element externals that my friend sent me for him to plot on, came pre-formatted NTFS. That was fine. You can actually write them in Linux, no problem. But generally speaking, if you're in Linux and you're going to be in Linux, I would probably not plot on NTFS. I would probably use ext4. I am testing ButterFS, which you guys may know as BTRFS, for plotting and farming. Now, this is an interesting one. So I'm going to have to do like an hour video on ButterFS with one of the experts. And I've talked to the developers at Facebook who work on ButterFS, and one of my friends, it's a very seasoned Linux developer, and I have been testing a lot of different ButterFS configs. He actually got me onto it for plotting because ButterFS has a lot of configurations. So think of it like as a replacement for like ZFS. It's like a simpler, ZFS is very, very complicated, but ButterFS has things called copy on write. It has snapshots. It has stuff like data integrity and checksums. So it's good for data protection and health. It has RAID built into the file system. There's all kinds of features. But it also has lots of customization. We found out that they have something in the 5.8 kernel called, actually came in 5.6, but it really stable in 5.8, which is called asynchronous discard, that works with ButterFS, which basically does asynchronous trim, but it also does something really cool, which coalesces a larger number of trim commands, from smaller blocks, smaller LBA size, and it coalesces it into one big trim command, which the SSDs can process faster. This is super important for a SATA drive. So if you're using an old SATA drive, SATA does not queue trim. If you do a trim on an old SATA drive, the native command queuing in SATA, it basically has a queue depth of 32 max. It basically flushes out the queue, executes the trim, and then starts up queuing commands again. So you have a massive performance penalty on SATA by not having queue trim. And so having the trim size bigger is much better for old SATA drives. For NVMe, trim and discard and it's called deallocate in NVMe is by default a queue command. So anyways, I'm playing around with all these options right now. I have a system that has Btrfs with some of the tweaked file systems on a 5.12 kernel, and it's looking like 5 to 10% better plotting than I was getting on XFS, but it might just be too early. You're going to hit CPU bottlenecks and other stuff too. So at some point, making the disk or file system faster, if you're hitting CPU bottlenecks and you're not IO bound, then it's not going to help. So all I can say is it's going to be very drive dependent, very system dependent. It's going to be RAID dependent, and it's going to be very dependent if you're CPU or IO bound. But on most of my systems, I use exactly what's in my guides today, which is just XFS for plotting and ext4 for farming. That's what I use in my own farm. So
just more knowledge, unlimited knowledge.
that was, if you guys saw I'm sure in the video people will see I have like 50 tabs open on Btrfs and watching the Facebook video again this morning. So yeah, a lot of people I think thought that Btrfs wasn't like robust for a mature file system, but I think the development started, probably 10 years ago, and Facebook uses it in production in their hyperscale data centers. So I would say most likely it is, being deployed at scale. So you can make the argument that it's probably pretty robust.
Let's see what do we got. What do we got? Oh, need more storage, and all prices I'm getting are brutal. Any suggestions? There are no suggestions. The price is the price. I mean, I've seen pictures popping up from people that are buying secondhand drives from data centers that are retired, though I would imagine most places are shredding and discarding those through some sort of exchange or company. But we got nothing besides the direct sources. Of anything secondhand, anything else?
No, but there was some people asked some actual thoughtful questions in the farming chat this week, which I answered, which was, okay, you recommend 16 and 18 terabyte drives, but okay, what if those are $600 and I can get a 4 terabyte drive for $8 to $10 per terabyte? Boy, yeah, that's a tough question, because now you're talking about, you still have a 4-to-1 disk per slot problem. So if you're buying a JBOD that holds 10 drives, and that my friend sent me a JBOD on Amazon, a USB one that was like, eight drives USB-C, and it was like $800. He's like, is this a good JBOD? I'm like, no, that's a horrible deal, right? 8 drives for $800, that's $100 a drive to hook up. I mean, like, what planet would that be a good deal? So no, I mean, so drive slots are not free. Hopefully cheaper than what I just mentioned, right? Where you have a desktop, $150 desktop that holds 8 to 12 drives. Okay, so now you can figure out what the cost of a drive slot is. And okay, if you use 4 terabyte drives versus 16 terabyte, you have to buy 4 times as many. But it's very easy to just do the math and say, okay, well, how much is this going to cost me for drive slots? How much is it going to cost me for power? And that's the argument I make in the post, which is like, it's really stupid to buy a bunch of small drives because you're going to see more failures. It's going to take higher power. You're going to take a lot more drive slots. Once you get to that point where you're doing a couple hundred terabytes, a 4-to-1 consolidation in space is not a trivial thing. Like, a lot of people just literally physically do not have the space for 4 times the amount of drives. So, but yeah, so you'll see, we saw the high capacity drive sell out, so we'll probably see some cheaper prices on some of the smaller capacities. But boy, if you find a good deal on 8 or 10 terabyte, probably okay. But 4 terabyte to me is just way too small. I have a stack of 4 terabytes in my garage right now that I just gave away most of them because I just don't need them.
And this is for maximizing your reward output in the name of recycling drives that may be going to the garbage, have 1 or 2 years of usable life left. You get your hands on them for cheap, and you have somewhere to store them. Plot them up, give those drives extra life, turn a little profit off of them, and that's another part of what this project is all about, is bringing life to those old recycled drives out there. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not impossible. It's just not
It,
optimal.
yeah, it is funny, right? So before the Chia craze and people were going out and buying a bunch of dedicated hardware, I actually started very small, and I bought most of the drives I got in the beginning. My first 500 terabytes that I bought was all used crap that I got on eBay for or I got through Craigslist for dirt cheap. I was like the ninja on Slick Deals, being like finding the cheapest. Like I wish I recorded all the deals I got. I got like your 10 terabyte drive for $120. I got 8 terabyte drives for $68 on eBay. Like I was like getting stupid, but now I'm sitting here. I have like 500 terabytes of my farm on these small capacity drives, and it's just like this is a waste of space. At some point I probably will move those over because and just get rid of them. But it's not. I've been a little too busy, so unfortunately that's going to be chalked up on the to do list for a while.
Nice. Didn't see too many more questions rolling in. I'm not really monitoring the chat, but yeah, I don't really see much. I guess I kind of wanted to give just an update on Chia Decentral and some of the stuff we're working on. We brought on a couple new contributors and people doing some awesome stuff with the site from a design and strategic perspective. We'll make a more formal announcement around that in the next couple of days. But another thing we've done is kind of solidified our content calendar, so you know more what to expect from us and the kind of stuff we'll be posting. Sunday, JM, I mean, at least for the foreseeable future, we'll keep doing this on Sundays as time allows. Monday, I just write a little weekly recap, just monitoring Netspace growth, cool things in the community. I'll keep doing that as long as you guys keep reading it. Tuesday, we're going to alternate weeks having content related to like the culture around Chia, NFTs, what's developing in that space, around a lot of the ESG components of Chia, and then also every other week do something related to business on the Chia network, the strategic reserve, how any traction on how the, say, IPOs looking, what the investment vehicles are looking like, just a kind of high level or specific coverage about Chia network from a business side. Wednesdays, JM, I think we still have you for a 5, 10, 15-minute video answering just kind of a common question that's been popping up in the community. You did the great one on, what was it? Was it farming on 2 machines, and then the Chia calculator update? People seem to really like those, so we'll keep.
It should be easy. The next one, it's probably not the highest priority video, but it's probably the one I want to do next, is answering SSD trim for YouTube, because I just seen so much confusion about this. And I know it's complicated, so I'm gonna do one on that, and I'll do one on this Btrfs stuff because I think I'm having a lot of fun benchmarking file systems and benchmarking some of my plotters. I rebuilt. Everybody, it's funny. Everybody deals with hardware issues. Like I was rebuilding one of my that old Super Micro plotter that was in the one. It was in the hardware spreadsheet. That had it's a 2-socket Xeon old Super Micro board, but I put an HBA in there with an internal SAS cable to the backplane, and I was just getting SATA read errors. Like, what the hell is going on? I rebuilt that thing 4 times yesterday to figure out it was a stupid bad SAS cable. And it I ended up reinstalling Ubuntu and all kinds of crap. Like, and just so I know people just that's how you learn stuff, is just things break and you figure out and fix them, and then you just figure out one thing at a time, change it one thing at a time, and say, did I fix it? What happened? Okay, so. How did I know? Okay, well, I plugged in my HBA and I saw a bunch of read errors, and it was like, this is not normal. I was using this HBA in another system with no problem. So, you just, it's just, you got to go through, line by line sometimes. But yeah, I'll try to do some more videos. And if you guys have ideas for stuff you want to hear, certainly put them in the YouTube comments or on Keybase or somewhere where Kyle and I will find them.
Yeah, awesome.
As you guys see, I'm very, very bad at answering Reddit comments. comments on our own website and comments on YouTube. I'm pretty poor at responding to. So Keybase is actually the best place to find me. So
Yeah, you can hit me up. I talk to JM all the time, so we're good. And then we also have two other kind of new segments we're running. We did Eric, who designed and developed the Plotman tool, did a guest feature on our website on, I think we released it on Friday, but we're going to launch kind of a Tools of Chia section where we're going to take guest posts from members of the community that have created some cool tool that's being used to help plot, farm, monitor your farms. But we got Freddie and the Chia calculator guys, and there's just cool tools popping up everywhere that are at your disposal. And we just want to make sure the community knows what's out there and how to best utilize them. And so, yeah, I mean, anybody out there who's building something cool in Chia and wants to get your project featured on our site, we would be happy to promote that and let the community know. And then Fridays, I'm throwing around the idea of just kind of featuring a cool community story from somebody who's plotting, farming, has some good story about using recycled drives. Or one that kind of stuck with me is we had a guy who's been plotting and farming with his son, and he just has a really kind of nostalgic story for me, doing things with your dad growing up, that really resonated with me. So he gave me a nice little write-up, and I've reached out to a few more of the members of the community to get their stories as well. So excited to feature those. But we're having fun. We're building a really cool community here, and we're keeping a lot of that same small community vibe we had in the Keybase from November, December, January of last year. So we're looking to just keep running with that. But yeah, JM, coming up on the hour before we shut it down. Any closing remarks for you as we head into second week of transactions? It feels like it's been 3 years, but this is cool.
Here we go. It's been fun. Yeah, like Kyle said, we're making. It's good to see a bunch of progress on the website. Obviously, Kyle said it's getting much bigger than just myself. So mad support for all of our new members of Chia Decentral. They're going to put out some awesome content, and it's been fun. We are, and like I said, I'll going into week 1 at the Chia HQ. So wish me luck.
Yeah, congrats again. That's just, who knew this is where we'd end up, but I think everybody
Here we are, from building.
We're something special to the community, and it's just been, what a roller coaster. But
10 months ago, just building desktops in my garage to, here we are doing full-time Chia. So it's a blast, guys. Thanks for supporting us and watching Kyle and I and following us. And it's been great to see that, the 99% of the comments and stuff on YouTube are positive, just like, I don't, we honestly probably should spend more time editing them and testing them and testing my audio and whatever. So thank you guys for putting up with, I'm pretty busy right now. So to get a video out, it's just record it and put it up there. So if you're looking for much higher production quality, look elsewhere. So we'll try to keep getting content up. So
we're here for the content. We're here for the Storage JM content. But all right, shutting it down for the night, guys.
Cool. Kyle,
happy Mother's Day, and good talking to you, JM. And
I'll see you soon, buddy.
All right, later.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.